Hi guys. Okay, so I'm just outside in my garden. I think it's about 10:30, and it's kind of like a pleasant evening. So I thought, I'm gonna come and sit out here for a little bit and just enjoy the peace and quiet. I've got a cup of hot beverage on the go. I'm using my barbecue as a little working space. I've got some candles lit. My cup of coffee. One shouldn't drink coffee this late at night, but I actually find it relaxes me, so that's a positive. So I just wanted to come on, and I didn't watch at all. I listened to one of the New World Witchery podcasts last night / this morning, and it really got me thinking. I will put a link down below to the podcast so you can have a listen. It's a little bit long, it's about an hour, but I'd say it's definitely worth it because I just found it fascinating. And the topic, and you're all going to cringe here, but the topic was biblical magic and using the Bible as a magical source book. Now, this had never occurred to me before, just because personally I don't connect with Christian theology. So, it never entered my mind to use a Christian book, the Christian book if you like, in my magic. So, first question, do you use the Bible? Have you ever? Would you ever use the Bible in your magical workings, and how do you feel about that? Because I think it's quite probably a thorny issue, and I thought, this is quite interesting. This could open up some good conversations and some good insights. So I'm putting it out there. Now, I think that Corey, who is one of the co-presenters on the pod show, I think he raised some really interesting points. I think he comes from a Catholic background, so he's quite well versed in the Bible. Certainly better than myself. But the first part of the podcast was sort of trying to demonstrate that magic is used throughout the Old Testament at least. And it's all a little bit hazy, probably, about within the New Testament. Let me explain a little. So, for example, Moses is given divine powers by God. So he has the magical staff that turns into a snake, but also he puts his hand in his cloak and it becomes leprous, and so he pulls it out and he's like, I'm a leper, and then he puts his hand back in his cloak and he's magically healed. However, he explains that, this is to sort of demonstrate to the people that he is close to God. But then later on, his people are in the desert and they're really thirsty and they need to drink, and he taps a rock and he gives them water, and God is angry with him because he used his magic, he used his powers that God had given him without God's permission, if you like. So that's interesting. They also discussed the famous or well-known quote from the Bible, "Thou shalt not let a witch to live." And I thought that this was interesting because apparently, depending on the version of the Bible that you have, it could say, thou shalt not let a poisoner to live. And witch was kind of used to mean people who divined things, so used forms of divination. And apparently the Levitical priests who were writing around, I think this is sort of around Exodus. Again, I don't know my Bible, so I'm really sorry if I'm screwing this up massively. The priests, so the priestly tome that is being written, the Levitical priests were allowed, or were given the powers by God and the people to use forms of divination. They were able to cast lots in order to determine God's will. So the chastisements about other people using forms of divination, thus being witches, sort of comes about not, or it seemed to me that it wasn't because it's wrong per se, it's more that only certain people are allowed to do it. And it's only allowed to be done through certain means. So, for example, I think it was Daniel, was it? That was the diviner of dreams, and he had the silver cup. And then there's the Thummim and Urim, which appears a lot actually in Mormon theology as well. Joseph Smith used that in order to write the Book of Mormon. So that, again, was another tool of divination that was used. So it's not really that divination was frowned upon, or that magic per se was frowned, or what I would term magic. You know, I don't think Christians, I think some Christians might be really offended by me using the word magic, and that isn't my intention for this video. I'm really quite intrigued how it's, I think it's interesting because if you think about what to one person is maybe a prayer, could be to a magical practitioner a spell. And I think a lot of it comes down to phraseology and how we talk about things. I'm not doing very good of talking about things in this video because I'm really, really tired, but I think it's very, very an interesting topic and something that I'm personally really intrigued to sort of research further. And I wonder if any of you do use biblical sources in your magic. Psalms, for example. Psalms can be quite popular, I think, in sort of folk traditions and hoodoo. I haven't worked with them myself personally, but I understand that in certain traditions they're used really frequently, and this is something that really, really intrigues me. So I'd really like to hear your points of view. What do you think about it? Would you use the Bible as a reference material in your magical workings? Would you not, and why not? And, you know, even non-pagans that might be watching this video, you know, how do you feel about that? I mean, again, I must reiterate, I'm not trying to be insightful in any way or disrespectful in any way. It's something that has never occurred to me to do before, and I think it's quite wonderful in the way that the Bible, most people know about the Bible. It's one of the most accessible books in the world, and if you are able to create that, you know, and use that to create good, then I think that's fabulous. So yeah, I'm babbling now, but I'm very interested to hear people's opinions, and maybe get a little bit of debate going on in the community. So yeah, what is your view on using Bibles in your magic? Okay, thanks for watching. Bright blessings. Take care. Blessed be.